Hello, everybody. How are we all today? Good. Good, glad to hear it. So this panel is about funding females, and what we want to try and do today is give you some really good insight as to how people have got on with their funding journeys. So Rupert is here from Midven, and they are an amazing fund in Birmingham who help businesses from lots of different sectors get funding, and he's going to give us some amazing insight. And we've got three amazing women here who are all at different stages of their funding journey. So we have Darcy on the end. Darcy's business, Absolute Collagen, managed to raise 14 million not too long ago, and we're going to be asking her quite a few questions about how that business has developed. Slender has an amazing business called Love Writing, and Love Writing help 2 to 9 year olds really love education and writing, and she's currently in the process of raising £1 million, of which 50% Midven, Rupert here, have given her, and there's still 50% to go, so we're going to ask about that. And then we have Cam here from Nylahs Naturals. You may have seen Cam on Dragon's Den. She has an unbelievable hair brand, and Cam raised $750,000 not too long ago, so we're going to talk to her about how that investment has panned out. So each of the guys have a quote as a little icebreaker. I'm going to get them to do their quote. I will read your quote for you. Rupert's quote was, "No more romanticizing about how cool it is to be an entrepreneur. It's a struggle to save your company and your own skin every single week." Why did you choose that quote?
I think people romanticize about being a founder or an entrepreneur. In actual fact, it's probably the loneliest job that anyone can have in the world. You know, nobody appreciates that you are sending emails at 3 o'clock in the morning because you can't sleep, because you're worried about everything that's going on. I once received an email from somebody at 3:08 in the morning, and I sent him an email when I woke up and said, what the hell are you doing sending emails at 3:08? And his response was, "Sleep is for the fully funded chief executive." So it is an emotional roller coaster of a journey, and I don't think too many people understand enough about just how it affects your life, domestically and business. You're expected to have all the answers. And in actual fact, you live in constant fear of failure and the huge responsibility that you've got. So it isn't a romantic journey at all. It's actually bloody tough, but it can be very, very rewarding if you get through it.
Fabulous. And next we have Cam. Cam's quote was, "If your ship doesn't come in, swim out and meet it." Why did you pick that quote, Queen?
Thank you, sis. The reason why I picked that quote is I think it resonates so much with many facets of my journey as an entrepreneur. And I think it resonates, in fact, with a lot of women who are entrepreneurs, a lot of women who are starting their businesses, because let's face it, the funding landscape isn't equal. We have significant challenges and hurdles that we have to overcome, especially as women of colour. And it means that sometimes the opportunity is not going to come and sit in our lap, right? We have to swim out to that ship. We have to design ourselves. We have to be our own architects. So when I saw that quote, that resonated so much with me, because throughout my journey as an entrepreneur, I've had to put myself in positions to be recognized, to be, you know, someone who is able to manage funding and someone who is attracting investors to the business. And I think it's a mindset that is really important for all entrepreneurs to have, because there's a thing called luck in entrepreneurship. There is, but luck is like 5%. 95% of it is graft. 80% of it is failure and learning from those failures. So for me, that quote is what really resonated.
Fabulous. So next we have Slender, and your quote was, I'll start again. "I knew that if I failed, I wouldn't regret that, but I would regret one thing if I didn't try." Tell us why you picked that quote.
Absolutely. I'm a big advocate to that. So for me, initially, I had that imposter syndrome where, why am I doing this? Am I good enough? I can't do this. I'm going to fail. So I had to change my mindset. And the minute I changed my mindset, let me have a go, let me regret it later. And literally, that's how I've lived most of my life. I always think, regret it afterwards, have a go. At least in your mind, say, I tried it, I did it, I tried my best. When you've tried your hardest and your best at something, you will never actually regret it. It'll just be, okay, I tried, maybe it didn't work out quite as quite how I wanted it to work out. But the fact is, I did it. I tried it. So, yeah, I'm one of those crazy people. I will do things and regret them afterwards.
We should be very proud of what you've managed to achieve thus far.
Thank you so much.
That's okay. And then we have Darcy. Darcy, your quote was, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. Why did you pick that quote?
So I think that quote's quite controversial. By the way, Rupert sent us a list of 200 quotes. I think you missed out.
No, he did, yeah, literally did.
Yeah, the reading was intense. But no, one thing I get asked a lot is kind of to do with this, and I always think if you're not motivated by something and you don't really, really want something, then I don't know how you'll struggle. I think you'll struggle to actually get there in the end. But a lot of our business at Absolute Collagen is rooted in science and efficacy in products, and that landscape's always changing, and there's always a way to find a way to the end, and I think that's really, really interesting, especially in business. But yeah, that's a quote that I live by.
No, that's fine. So look, I think what would be really helpful is trying to understand where you guys are at in your funding journey, and as you have the mic, Darcy, understanding when you got that 14 million, how that changed the business, and really the milestones that funding has given you and where you're at now. Please share.
So me and my mum actually started Absolute Collagen when I was at uni doing food science, and she was doing a fine art degree. Weird story, she cut all her hair off and we discovered collagen. There's a lot in between. There's 2 years in between that happening. But we got to a point and we were building a market essentially that didn't exist. Collagen wasn't really around, and it was about the education. And we had around 15 employees. And I remember looking at my mum and thinking, I have no business experience. My mum didn't either. She was 49. And if we respected everyone on that floor and wanted to take the business to the next level, we'd need to bring in kind of a bit better strategy and better people. Not better people, just people that can help guide the business in a different way. So that was in 2021, and we ended up taking investment in December 2021. And only minority partners, they only own sort of 30% of the business, but that's really enabled us to unlock some incredible people. Like our CEO came on board. She's ex-vice president of Amazon, which was quite scary when I first met her. But she's actually really lovely, and she's brought in a completely new outlook on Absolute Collagen. We always say she has like the commerciality. I'm really great at science, product, and people, and my mum Maxine is like the emotion to the brand. And the three of us work really, really well together. But I think it's just that sounding board and being able to speak to people that you genuinely wouldn't have access to before. So we've used that money a lot for development of products. We're still UK centric, so the majority of our business, our turnover is around 30 million, hopefully this year. Fingers crossed. They're all crossed.
Well done. I think that deserves a round of applause. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, still UK centric, and essentially what we've been able to do now is really strategically look at what resources does the team have? Like, how can we actually do the next right thing? And it's not always about where you spend the next pound. It could be where you spend the next minute of someone's time, and that's a really important thing.
Absolutely. So the next question I'm going to aim at Cam and Rupert together. Cam in October managed to secure £250,000, and Rupert, you saw her as investment ready. So I'd like to try and understand, Cam, how you got investment ready and what it is, Rupert, you saw in her to sort of say, this is a woman I want to back.
I'm going to let Rupert start, actually, because I want to hear that. So.
Should I give you 2 mics? You got it? Yeah.
Bloody hell, on the spot now. I'll give you some context. At the first half of 2023, only 3.5% of equity funding in the UK went to female founders. We don't need to be maths majors to understand that that's actually a bit of an imbalance, using an understatement. And there are some fantastic things about working with female founders. The first is that there's no bullshit. And the second thing is there's no ego. But the issue with Cam is that she's a perfectionist. And in actual fact, sometimes you just need to say, right, this is 80% ready, I'm going to go for it. But Cam wanted everything to be 100% perfect. And that was one of the first conversations we had. The second thing is that 90% of all businesses fail. Not shock tactics, that is just stats. And you need to do whatever you can to ensure that whatever business you've got is in the 10% that succeed. And to do that, you need to be a sponge. You need to be able to listen, assimilate, embrace, ask people for help. And Cam, from the very, very first moment, was somebody who completely embodied that. She was just up for learning. And if you've got somebody that's up for learning, then they're somebody you want to go on a journey with.
Thank you, Rupert.
So Cam, that was lovely, Rupert.
Right,
how did you get yourself? How do you feel you got yourself investment ready?
I think my investment readiness journey happened over a period of several years, right? It definitely wasn't something that happened overnight. The business was a great concept. There was a fantastic market for the business, and there was a fantastic appetite for what we was delivering to the market. But sadly, we hadn't got the traction that we needed, and so we needed investment to help to support that. What I did for investment readiness is really understand my market, the dynamics of the market, the size of the market, and I wanted to put myself in a position that if anyone asked me any question in relation to my market, my core customer, my growth objectives, I was able to answer it. You know, our product development, everything. I wanted to know the business inside and out. So that was a key part of, I think, getting investment ready. Some of you may know I went on Dragon's Den in 2021. I was featured on Dragon's Den, and I was offered investment from Sarah. And I will say, I wasn't ready for the investment that at that time, because the valuation that they gave my business was really poor. And as a result of that valuation, we renegotiated the terms and we came to a better agreement. However, I decided that I wasn't going to take the money, and I was going to get the business to another stage where it was more attractive to other more sophisticated investor pool. And then having done that, having secured retailers with Boots and Superdrug, and really got us to a place where we was turning over a few 100,000. We approached Midven. Midven had a fantastic, which Rupert manages now, which is the Midland Investment Fund, and also the co-investment fund, giving opportunities to businesses who meet a certain criteria. And when I met Rupert and told him about our objectives and our journey so far, he was, you know, welcoming to it and definitely seen the potential in the business and therefore invested in us. So it's been a long journey, but I'm really happy with where we are now.
Fabulous. Absolutely.
Yeah, just one other thing, listening to Cam speak there. One of the most important things that any founder can do is tell a story. Absolutely fundamental, because it's that grabs hearts and minds. And in actual fact, it's not Lindsay's serum that grabs hearts and minds. It's the fact that if she gets this right, she solves the physical and mental issue for 400 million black women with afro hair in the world. And that's the story. It's not about the serum today, it's about where you can get to. So don't focus on the reeds, on the woods, on the coalface. That's just your starting point. You need to be able to capture hearts and minds. You need to have a North Star. And if you've got a North Star with a compelling proposition, then you'll get people to go on that journey no matter where you are and no matter who you are.
I really like that. So talking about North Stars then and compelling propositions, Slender, you are 50% of £1 million. You're
Yeah.
clearly investment ready because you've got it. Talk to me about how it felt pre getting that 50% and where you're at now and what your hopes are for the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, sure. So we're a disruptor brand. So we're going back to basics. We create a range of writing products for children, which are your books, colouring pencils, which are specifically designed to enhance a child's writing experience. But it's back to basics, basically. So I'm going back, challenging the digital era, basically. I'm trying to get kids off the screen, and I get challenged all the time saying, why do kids need this? Why do kids need to learn to write now when they can tap away? If you can't read and write, you can't read what's on your tablet or your phone. So first of all, my journey was very much proving the concept. My journey was about, hey, listen, we need to support children. We need to put their education first. So a lot of the investment challenges were about, is your product even worth investment? Is it needed? So I had a lot of work to do, proving the concept. And then obviously, I came from a background where I was in a corporate environment for a long time as a single mom, knew nothing about business, didn't even know what a cash flow was. So someone had to show me how to do a cash flow. So my investment journey started probably 3 years ago. It was like, right, what do I need to do? First of all, prove the concept. Yes, that worked. Customers loved it. Parents loved it. Children loved it. How am I going to take this to another level? I had to invest in myself by educating myself, made friends with lots of people, networked, said, hey, my name's Selenda, I make writing products for kids. I was like, oh, yeah, that's nice. But I was like, hold on. How do I get investment ready? So I started networking, connecting to people, finding out what these investors were after.
Power of connection.
Power of connection. Hounded them, that made them talk to me, made them just, I didn't actually ever talk about money, to be fair. I just talked about what do I need to do to get to a position where you might consider my business for investment. So, made the context, educated myself, joined accelerators, made sure I connected to the right people. So where I am at the moment is got myself investment ready, really excited about working with Midven. They've committed the 50% and now looking to match fund. It's very exciting at the minute.
So we're out there looking for match funding for £500,000. Good. So look, we don't have long left. And I think, Darcy, I'll start with you. I'd like to ask you the advice that you would give to your younger self. Should you have the opportunity, would you have had the opportunity in the context of business and funding? Aha.
Thank you. One thing that I really struggled with, because I'm 26, I'm not that, still quite young.
You are.
Yeah. I really struggled with at the beginning, knowing, especially at the beginning of investment, I know our customer better than anyone else. But I think when you listen to people that are older than you, or wiser than you, they've done it before, you can kind of get, I guess, mistracked, you kind of lose where you're going, because you kind of think, oh, well, they know what they're doing, they've done it before. And I think I wish that I could look back now. And when we took investment, I did exactly this. We had some amazing people on board, our chairman came on board. He was ex-MD of Heineken. And then we had someone, CEO of GHD. We had some really awesome people come on board. And I just wanted to learn. As long as I'm learning, I'm always really happy. But sometimes I wish I kind of I know my
strength
customer.
of mind, strength of self. So being strong in your opinions, would you say?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not a pushover.
No.
But
you wouldn't be where you are if you were, darling.
Yeah, but I love hearing other people's opinions. And I think just knowing, you guys know your product, you know your brand better than anyone else. And I think there's that fine balance between taking advice and listening to other people's views versus taking your own advice. And that gut feeling, I'm a big gut feeling believer. And I think that's really important. So yeah, just trusting your
Absolutely.
instinct a bit more.
Trust your gut and be strong in yourself. I'm going to go to Rupert. Before I ask you about your advice you'd give to your younger self, I think just for the benefit of the crowd, if you could, as somebody who invests in businesses, just give us maybe 3 or 4 things that you would advise the crowd if they are looking for funding that they could do right now to up their game and be more attractive to investors.
Oh, it's quite simply turn your business into a story. Absolutely. You know, we all pick up a book or we watch a good film, and some of them grab us and others don't. And what you need to do to differentiate yourselves from all the other businesses out there that are fundraising is have a story. And one of the best examples of this is Jeff Bezos walks into a venture capital company in the early 90s and he says, I want to build the everything store. And that grabbed everyone's hearts and minds. Where he started was books. That was his go-to entry point. If he'd gone into that venture capital company and said, I want to start an online bookseller, he'd have probably got a very, very different reaction. So fundamentally, have a story that is based on a North Star that grabs people's hearts and minds, and that's most of the journey.
Good advice. And the advice you'd give to your younger self, Rupert?
Your network is your only USP, and your network's network can probably get you to most people on the planet. I sat in a room in the 90s before LinkedIn, before mobile phones, and I sat next to somebody who could get me to Saddam Hussein in 4 phone calls, because he went to Newcastle University, where he knew 5 bellies, who was Paul Gascoigne's best mate, and Paul Gascoigne advised the Iraqi national football team, which was managed by Saddam Hussein's son, and he could speak to his dad. So you can get to anyone on the planet if you try hard enough and you work your network. So it's your only USP. Everything else people can copy. Your USP is unique to you.
Fabulous. Cam, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Baby girl, what if you fly? What if you fly? And I think I know the reason I would give myself that advice is because imposter syndrome, especially in my early development processes, was a massive factor for me. And it stopped me a lot. It stopped me from doing a lot. And I think having that confidence and having that belief that, you know what, it might fail, but what if you fly? What if you succeed? Would have definitely got me on the journey a lot quicker.
I like that.
I think,
so we've got Rupert being in the right room, connecting to the right people, and actually thinking about, if you do it, you can do it, and just fly. You never know what might happen. And last but not least, Slender, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Is just to believe in yourself more. If I had learned to say no to people when they were trying to tell me that what I was trying to do wasn't right, if I had believed in myself more, just believe it, take away that little voice in your head that's saying you can't do this, you're not good enough, is to believe in yourself, learn to say no to people, and just trust yourself and your process.
Fabulous. Rupert.
Just picking up on that theme, one of the quotes in that list of 200 I sent out goes, if you can dream it, you can do it. After all, this whole thing was started by a mouse, and that's what Walt Disney said. So if he can create Disney out of a mouse, you can create your business out of anything.
Love that. Very inspirational. Thank you all. What an amazing panel. We get a round of applause for the panel. Fabulous.